Hello everybody and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, and I'll start with a couple of announcements. We have a couple of new things scheduled that I haven't talked about before. The first one will happen in July. It's a class I'm going to teach boot camp style. Everybody really likes this. We do like a Friday night, Saturday afternoon, 5 hours of really compressed information. And the one I'm doing in July is forming and maintaining optimal habits. And I'll tell you what that course is about. It's about whether you're a practitioner who's trying to help people or a consumer who's trying to change things. It's really about how it is that humans can know what they are supposed to do and have so darn much trouble getting it done. And we all have some of that in ourselves. I'm better about doing some things than others. And some people have difficulty with all of it. I mean, they totally understand eating plans and exercise. They know what they should do. They just don't do it. This is going to be about the psychology of habit change. And so that's going to be in July. And then in September, I'm teaching a two-session boot camp on autism as a biological disease. How it happens, the difference between genetically autism that you can attribute to genetics versus autism that happens after a period of developmental normalcy. And then we're going to look at various strategies for resolving it. And we're going to filter this the same way that I'm filtering the cancer course this summer, where you have a lot of people throwing out a lot of theories, but really looking at this through the evidence lens, which doesn't mean that trying some things isn't a good idea, but it does mean that probably the place you should start is trying some things for which there is evidence to support. So anyway, I'm excited about teaching these two classes because they sure do impact a lot of people. In the case of forming and maintaining optimal habits, I would say that it's not the knowing that is plaguing most people these days, it's the doing. And in the case of autism, the rate is 1 in 68 for some type of developmental issue. And when I watched the movie Vaxxed, one of the people interviewed in that film said that if we keep going the way that we are right now, by the year 2050, 50% of all children will be affected. And that is one scary statistic. I'm sure that you, like me, would like to see that not happen. So if you're interested in those things, send me an email. We'll send you a curriculum outline and that sort of thing. pampopper@msn.com. All right, so I have kind of something neat to talk about today. In 1980, James Fries, who was at the time a professor of medicine at Stanford University, introduced a new theory called the compression of morbidity theory, or COM. The theory is based on the idea that most illnesses are chronic. At that time, they tended to occur later in life. That's not happening as much now, which actually makes this even more important. Therefore, according to this guy, the burden of illness could be lessened and quality of life could be improved if the onset of illness could be postponed. In other words, people should try to stay as healthy as they can for as long as they possibly can, so that age-related disease and decline happens as late in life as possible and for the shortest period of time as possible. Now, what would that really mean in real life? How would this translate? Well, a person would be actively engaged in living a full life until age 95, have few or no illnesses, spend no time disabled, and then one night just go to sleep and not get up. Well, I've known some people who lived and died this way, and I think it is a lot better than the long descent into worsening health and disability that most Americans at some point in time start to experience today. Fries published several articles concerning his theory and its implications for both individuals and also to society. In one article, he discussed the fact that health improvement programs should be instituted early. One of the things that we tend to do now is we direct health programs at people who are aging or aged, and they already have a lot of problems. But he was suggesting we should back up the process and keep people from getting into that situation, because the types of health improvement programs that can really make a difference don't make a difference in people who are already pretty far gone. So he thought it was better to target younger people who were in better health and increase the likelihood that they would enter old age in better health. He also believed that mandatory retirement age should be totally done away with, because one of the ways that you can keep people young is to keep them actively engaged in life and feeling, addressing challenges and feeling like they're productive. He said this is a way that people can remain vibrant and healthy. He advised that long-term care programs and institutions should be completely discontinued, and instead there should be programs that promote independent living. Institutionalizing people, this guy said, lessened individual initiative and worsened health, and the better option is for family support and more focus on how to keep people in their own homes. And if you've ever had a family member who had to be moved to a long-term care facility, you probably have experienced the sheer terror and resistance to leaving their home. And I know I can understand that. I love the place where I live, and I'm not saying I won't move, before the end of my life. But right now, I would want to move from that place to another place I choose, not into some type of care facility where everything gets put in one room and everything else goes away. Well, Fries proposes 4 types of prevention strategies that would promote the end goal of reducing lifetime morbidity. First was primordial prevention, which prevents risk factors from developing. So an example of this would be preventing teenagers from smoking, or another one would be addressing children's health so that kids don't develop weight problems. So that's a whole set of it's early, really early intervention. Another is primary prevention, which decreases risk factor prevalence. So examples would be smoking cessation programs. People who've picked up a bad habit, let's see what we can do about it, promote exercise, better diets to reduce cholesterol. Secondary prevention efforts are directed at decreasing or stopping the progression of disease, preventing a second heart attack, reducing complications of diabetes. And then tertiary prevention is reducing already existing morbid states such as hip or knee replacement or kidney failure. And he really believed that you had to do all 4 of these approaches in order to achieve the goal of longer and better lives for people. Now, to put it in real-life terms, one of the primary prevention research studies that Fries spearheaded was the Runner study, which assessed the effects of vigorous exercise on morbidity and mortality in seniors. The study was different because a lot of research groups have looked at the benefits of exercise, and I don't really read much that says exercise is bad for you. Everybody pretty much arrives at the same conclusions. You should do it, and you should do a lot of it. But there hasn't been a lot of research on the long-term effects of more aggressive exercise. So the study design, a prospective longitudinal study, was perfect for testing the compression of morbidity hypothesis. So it started in 1984. The subjects included 538 members of an over 50 running group and 423 healthy controls over the age of 50. Throughout the study, the disability rate was higher in the control group, and the differences increased as the subjects aged. Running turned out to be one great way to stay healthy. The time to disability was postponed in runners for an average of 12 years. While a lot of people still insist that running is bad for the knees, the runners had fewer knee and hip replacement surgeries than those in the control group. And time to death was 2 times longer in the running group versus the controls. So what this really showed was not just that exercise is good for you, but it's a somewhat dose-dependent manner, because the runners were doing much more vigorous exercise, and they actually ended up a whole lot better off in terms of postponing disability and postponing death. Fries was ahead of his time in observing that the healthcare system incentivizes the wrong behaviors. I read quite a few of his articles after I saw this showed up on my radar screen. He says, for example, health insurance takes money from healthy people with good habits and distributes it to unhealthy people with bad habits and bad lifestyle habits, effectively subsidizing bad behavior. Insurance doesn't pay for products and services that promote health, such as diet and lifestyle education. And I would add that the healthcare system doesn't require full disclosure of the risks and benefits of various choices. I mean, I have a lot of confidence that people would choose health-promoting diets, exercise, and lifestyle strategies if they were shown the limited efficacy rate for some of the drugs and procedures that are commonly recommended, and also the incredible efficacy rate of things like exercise. I mean, when people start talking about how aggressive exercise is bad for you, I think they all should read this study. It's not the only one I've seen, but it's an important one. It was one of the first. The end goal, Fries says, of all of this that we're talking about here is, quote, a long, vigorous life culminating with a sudden terminal collapse, vitality until the end, and death coming without fear or fury at the natural end of the individual lifespan. Live long, die short. In other words, in Fry's world and in mine, people would just, they would live their lives and then it would be over, instead of this gradual descent that I mentioned earlier, where every year gets worse than the last year until people end up spending sometimes a couple of decades of their life at the end of their life in one room with not much going on. I don't know about you, but I don't want to end up that way. I happen to be a runner, and I can attest to the wonderful benefits that come from doing it. Running may not be your thing, but do something that's aggressive. It really does. It really does protect your independence and your health, and do a lot to contribute to having a long, independent life. So anyway, this whole idea of living until you die, I think we could get a lot of people on board with that, because it's a whole lot better than what we watch so many other people doing. All right, that's all for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody else who you think might enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news.